Hi, I'm Hannah. This is Piles of Books. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about raising readers. Okay, so I'm sure that this is going to be an ongoing, possibly never-ending series that we talk about here on my channel. It's something that I am very passionate about and something that I am living right now, and I love it. So I knew before I was even a mom, before I was even married, that I wanted my children someday to love books at least half as much as I do. Part of that is, just because it's basically impossible to ignore the benefits of reading, but also because I have such fond memories of my mom reading out loud to me and my siblings when I was young, and I just wanted that atmosphere for my home. So my childhood was filled with books. We owned many of the Dr. Seuss books, many of the, like Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss's ABCs, Fox and Socks, those like Dr. Seuss early reader books, Go Dogs Go, that sort of thing. And my mom would read to us, all the time. She read to us a lot. And I loved it. It was such a special time. So when I got married, my mom sent with me some of my personal childhood books, and then about a year and a half later, when I was expecting my first, I started just picking up, a few books here and there, like from the thrift store or something. So I had a small collection of books that I would just read to here and there while I was pregnant with him. And then we had an unexpected 4-day NICU stay when he was born, and my mom and one of my sisters-in-law brought me some books that I could read to him in those first couple days when I couldn't hold him at all. So books have been a very central theme to our home and to my kids' childhood from the very beginning, and I am really grateful for that. So what I want to talk about today are some specific books that we have enjoyed or ones that I would recommend, and then also some like storybook collections that I think are really valuable as well. So I'm going to focus on just like the baby, to first year-ish stage, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. It would take me way too long to try to narrow down my very favorites, and we have some packed away because we have so many kids books. I cannot keep them all out at once, or it would just be a disaster. So I just went and chose, off of our shelves right now. And then once we switch books, we usually do it by season. I might remake this video at some point with some more recommendations. But these are books that we have really enjoyed when our kids were, like I said, in a baby to, 1-ish year stage. However, my older kids also still love these books, and I enjoy reading them to them. I started out with more just like simple stories, or this kind of book, Green Eggs and Ham, Go Dogs Go, the Dr. Seuss ABC book, there were plenty others. And then specifically I was looking for stories that rhymed. So, like Green Eggs and Ham is a perfect example of that. And then once they got to, maybe like a few months, 4 to 6-ish months or so, when they're kind of like sitting up and looking more at things and starting to grab things, I would do books like this. So this is a board book, Each Peach Pear Plum by Janet and Alan Alberg. This is such a fun book if you're not familiar with it. So there's just different like storybook fairy tale characters. So Each Peach Pear Plum, I Spy Tom Thumb, and then there's this picture over here, and the child can find Tom Thumb. He's up here in the tree. And then there's Mother Hubbard, Cinderella in the Cellar, there's the Three Bears. Anyway, and so then it was fun as my kids got older to, find those actual real stories, the story of Tom Thumb, and read them that. So this is something I think that grows really well with kids, and it rhymes. The pictures are beautiful, just very enjoyable to look at. So this is the kind of thing that I, switched more so to. This is another one that was a favorite of ours, Goodnight, Mr. Darcy. So this is, you know, a parody of the Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. And of course, that one is a favorite here too. This one I bought for my oldest for his first birthday. It's from Baby Lit, and I know Baby Lit is not everyone's favorite, but I do really like their stories. I think they're cute. And of course, when you take a classic like Goodnight Moon and you pair it with a classic like Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, I mean, you can't really get much better than that. Another one that we really loved is this series, The Goodnight. There's a whole bunch of them. This one is obviously Goodnight Coast Guard. My brother was in the Coast Guard for a few years when my oldest two were toddlers. So he sent this one to my kids one year for Christmas, and I've collected them for some other like places that we've been to, or I would get them from the library if we were studying a different country or something. These are fun. They don't necessarily rhyme, but these are really good books for, I feel like, pointing out objects of things. So like this page, good afternoon buoy tender. These boats pick up buoys for repairs. And so, you know, I mean, you know, most 2-year-olds have never even heard of a buoy probably. You know, this is a buoy. These guys are fixing the buoys. So we have one that's Goodnight South Carolina, and it talks about, you know, some of the like places to visit in South Carolina, the Capitol building and different things like that. So I think that these are really fun, and they are definitely good like educational wise as well. Of course, we have another classic book like The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. This one has been very well loved by all of my kids. I mean, it was, you know, a favorite book of mine when I was a child as well. So just, you know, simple board books like this. Here's another example. There's a series of these. They're the Winnie the Pooh, like preschool type books. There's this one's opposites. There's colors, numbers, and shapes. I think there's 4 of them. Oh, and there's a telling the time one too. Anyway, so these are cute, and of course they have the Ernest Shepherd, just really simple illustrations that are just lovely and very nostalgic, and my kids have loved these as well. And this is a series that's new to us. I just, my youngest turned 2 last August, and I bought him this series. I think there's 3 of them, but I only grabbed the first one. This is A Trip to the Forest, and there's A Trip to the Farmer's Market, and there's one other one. I can't think of what it is. Anyway, these are told in rhyme, and they just have very simple illustrations. So these are really fun, and I kind of felt like maybe he was on the older end of the target age for these books. However, he has loved them, and I mean they have been favorites here. So that's kind of what I go for. Like I said, you know, once my kids are, you know, maybe like 4 months or 6 months or so, just sitting up kind of, and of course, you know, I could give them this to look at. I also would like to, I would prop open a book like this and then, you know, lay them on their tummy or something while I was, you know, cleaning or doing different things, and just turn the page every so often and give them something to look at. So the next books that I have to talk about are actually parts of series that I think are very valuable for every home to have. However, there was kind of a resurgence in their popularity like a few years ago, and so they are still easy to find, but they are more expensive today than they were when I started looking for and buying these sets, you know, maybe like four or so years ago. The first set is this Best in Children's Books. I can't remember how many of these there are, and we don't own all of them. I'm just kind of slowly building my collection of these. But these are just super fun. So this one, like the first story in here is Paul Bunyan, Hero of the Lumberwoods. And then what else? It shows on the back, I guess. There's like Three Billy Goats Gruff. There's some other like actually nonfiction, like North America's Wonderful Wildlife, Let's Go to Columbia. So there are some like fairy tales in here. There are also children's books. Like if you're familiar with Angus and the Ducks, by Marjorie Flack, those stories are all in these books. So there's, you know, picture books that were put into here as well. These are really fun. I wish I had found these when my oldest two were younger, but they have enjoyed them even at, you know, 8 and 6 years old. So like this, there's just a simple, it's explaining the time zones in America. So anyway, these are fun. And of course, you know, I'm not like expecting my newborn to actually be paying attention, but just, you know, stories that I enjoy reading myself and I would read out loud to them. Another example, so actually the next two are the same. This is the My Book House series, but they are different editions, and there are other editions even than these. These just happen to be my favorites. So this is the older one, this blue set, and this is from, let me see, which, this one is from 1937. So I have all 12 of these, and what's neat about these is that the books are graded almost. So this is the first one in the nursery, and it is just full of nursery rhymes and fairy tales, just very simple stories. And then, like, you know, the next book up, the second book has, you know, the stories are a little more advanced, and it just keeps going all the way through 12. There are 12 books. Like by the end, there's more like nature stories and stories from history and all of that. But again, you know, I would just prop this open and let my babies just look at it, or, you know, we would just, you know, I would just read a fun little nursery rhyme to them or something, and we have fallen in love with these. And then, of course, like I said, the next one is just another version of it. So there are some overlap of stories, but they're not completely the same. And these papers are more sturdy than the blue set. This one is from 1971, I think. And so it's called the rainbow set. So there's like, this one's pink. It's like all the pastel colors, basically. They look really pretty on a shelf. And so it's just the same, obviously. But some of the stories are different. And so again, I would just, you know, sit down and just read a quick little nursery rhyme to them, or a lot of times I would read while I was nursing them or something. So I feel like I should also say, of course, I'm not expecting my, you know, like I said, my newborns to listen. I'm not expecting my 6-year-old to be able to point out, you know, a yellow ball because I read it in a book. Not at all. I just think that it's valuable for them to be hearing my voice, and it's valuable for them to be hearing things like rhyming and all of that, and of course just language development and everything. Books are such a great way for them to get all of that. And also, I mean, it's good for me as their mom, and it's fun for me as their mom because I already enjoy books. So one book that I forgot to mention in the video that I loved for my kids was this Real Mother Goose, specifically this black and white checked edition of it. So I had this full version of it, but I also had like a mini condensed board book version, and it was absolutely destroyed. And we do not let our kids be hard on books, but that one was just so well loved, and it had just some of the more like common Mother Goose nursery rhymes from this book, like Pat a Cake, Wee Willie Winky. What else was in there? Just some of the more popular ones, I guess. Anyway, my kids loved nursery rhymes, and all 4 of them, from 2 years old to 8 years old, love anything that rhymes at all. Books, poetry, music lyrics, whatever. And I really think that it's because I read Mother Goose to them all the time. So just reading to them from, you know, the very beginning, it does tend to give them more of a love for and appreciation for books. So obviously my first is the only one that is, you know, reading completely on his own. He is 8, but he has always loved books. And when he was a year old, I would start quoting, you know, from a favorite book of ours, and he would run over out of the basket and he would grab it and he'd bring it and he'd sit down on my lap and he'd want me to read it. And that was so special to me. I loved that time with him. And then, as his siblings came along, just they were just kind of thrown into the mix, and they were hearing these little stories, but they're also hearing the, older stories that I'm reading to him. And then they would hear him learning how to read out loud. And it has just grown such a book culture in our home that has been so delightful to me and to my husband, to see our kids also enjoying books. That is it for today. Like I said, this is probably going to be an ongoing, possibly never-ending series. Hopefully here soon I will talk about like the next stage-ish, kind of what I read more for like the 1 to 3-year-old toddler stage. I like to work up to, what my 8-year-old third grader is currently reading right now. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble about some of our favorite books and the utter enjoyment that I get out of reading to and with my kids. So I hope that you will stick around for the next video, and we'll see you then.